like on the weekends.
Well, you came in here with unicorn shoes one time.
That's how you know. That's how you know.
And did I tell you what this up with this? So Hydro Flask.
Tell me about it. I love Hydro Flask.
It's first of all, it's unbelievable.
Stays cold forever.
You hear that? That's ice from before 8 a.m.
Stop. Really?
It is 2:30-ish, maybe later than that.
I'm impressed.
So that's Starbucks. So that's also a part of my sustainable lifestyle. I'm trying to create less waste.
I love it.
And plastic stuff, you know, we just got to do something about it. So the straw, all this stuff, I just give it to them. At Starbucks, they put it in there. We're good to go.
That's awesome.
No waste.
Now, if only they could just start charging less to customers who do the same thing.
It's 10 cents off.
Oh, perfect. There you go. How about even less? Even less.
All right,
$1, I'll take it.
Let's go. First of all, I mean, I'm gonna, you know, buying a condo or in an HOA community. So a lot
Yes.
of detached home communities now have HOAs. So it's
Well,
not
you know
like
what it
just
is.
back in the day.
HOAs are a thing that started in common interest developments that were built in pretty much 1985 and on. So that's why around here you see a lot, because 1985 and newer there was huge booms, just no space, had to throw as many homes as we could into areas. So
We still don't have enough.
we still don't have enough.
We've
Housing
tried.
crisis.
Yeah, but it's like, it's tough. And so some of these areas like that are newer,
Yes.
especially like Chula Vista or even like
Rancho Bernardo,
yeah, Del Sur or some of those places, Scripps Ranch.
right?
There's tons of areas. Nothing wrong with it. I mean, the idea was convenience, sound of freedom. Been flying over us all day today, fellas. Appreciate you. You know, the idea was convenience.
Yes.
So the idea was like, okay, well, everyone doesn't have to maintain a pool. Let's make an awesome pool.
Right.
And then let's all chip in on it. That was the idea, right?
Absolutely. It started off as a wonderful little advantage.
Yes. So what happened since then?
You know, it's kind of one of those, you know, give an inch, take a mile situations. And
This aligns with our millennial theme.
absolutely, absolutely. You know, what started as just a way to protect, maintain a lifestyle, quality of life, has kind of turned into just this big monster. And there are a lot of people who just completely detest HOAs now and are having a really hard time buying in an HOA, number one, because of the cost. And number two, because of all of the difficult rules, regulations, all of the fees and assessments that go along with it. So, you know, I actually dislike HOAs quite a bit.
Well, and the reason I think is because personally, it's just one of those things where it's gotten to a point where there's too many cooks in the kitchen.
Absolutely.
I really do believe, and I know this may sound silly or crazy or whatever, but I do believe that HOA should be run by a single individual who's taken a competency test. You should have to take the Wonderlick.
Right.
And if you can't get 30 on it, you're out.
Yeah. And
So
have
you need
and
to
have
prove,
ethical, you know, ethical boundaries that they have to abide by.
right.
They need to be able to answer to someone. And I have believed for quite some time. And actually what's interesting is California has one of the largest bodies of HOA laws nationwide. And I still
Imagine
don't think
that.
it's enough.
Yeah. Well, I think, and so you have a lot of issues with so many cooks in the kitchen and so many people, you know, so much voting and so much democracy. Democracy is great, okay, all that stuff's great. But when you're talking about business decisions,
Right.
business decisions are best made by CEO.
Absolutely.
You talk about boards of directors and shit trying to make decisions, it's a nightmare.
Right.
Nothing happens. It's like Congress.
Absolutely.
You know, unless everyone's getting their palm greased, nothing happens. Especially anything good that's altruistic. If you want things like that to happen in an HOA, it's got to be set up differently.
Absolutely. And in so many HOAs, there are people who don't even necessarily have experience, financial, business, real estate, or otherwise, that are in charge of making these decisions.
Conflicts of interest
So,
are everywhere.
Absolutely.
Especially because, like, in certain HOAs, you'll have someone who's like, well, I'm a retiree, I want it to be quiet. You'll have another person who's like, I have 5 kids.
Right. But you know, what's really interesting is in a community, a lot of times you'll find a lot of the same people on the board. And so you'll have, you know, a complex with a ton of different kinds of families and then all retirees on the board. Well, you know, who's going to win is the people who want the quiet.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's one of the things that I hate about HOAs is it's just another governing party who wants to just overwhelmingly decide what you're going to do in your lifestyle.
She said exactly, an outside party seeking to micromanage your lifestyle.
Yeah, seriously. Absolutely.
And the inverse, undermanage.
And the inverse, undermanage. So, when you're talking about HOAs, you're thinking like, what color can I paint my house? What windows can I install? Of course, those are the things that an HOA has to impose. But there are also other things that people don't think about, little things like I can't hang these plants on my patio.
Can't have an American flag
right,
outside.
I'm not allowed to wash my car in my driveway. These are things that you don't necessarily know about until you're actually breaking the rules. So, one of the ways that you beat that is knowledge is power. You got to find out what the HOA rules and the regulations are before you move into a place, and find out what happens when you do break those rules. What are the fines? How far do they take it? Oh, we've got James.
James said our HOA forgot to pay water bill, and the water was shut off for about 100 homes for 3 days.
See, that's insane.
Oh, are you kidding me? Seriously.
But in reality, and what are they really going to do about it? Are they going to?
Nothing you can do.
Yeah, they're not going to put you up in a hotel for 3 days. I'll tell you that.
Oh no, that's not going to happen.
Unless you're going to pay for it.
So, ability to impose fines and even place liens in your property in certain cases is number
exactly.
2 of the 10 things
Right.
I hate about HOAs.
But one of the things that you can do if you just don't agree with the rules, one thing that people don't realize that they can do is you can file for a variance in HOAs. If you just if you want to change a rule, or if you want to break a rule legally, you can apply for a variance. But what I really would suggest that you do is make sure you have a good reason, and you are breaking a rule in such a way that it's not going to be a nuisance to your neighbors. Then you have a good chance of actually winning it, hopefully, if your HOA is sensible, which is another issue.
Guarantee.
No guarantee on that.
No guarantee at all.
But yes, the HOAs have an express ability to impose fines and dues, which people are aware of. But what a lot of people aren't aware of is that those dues, those assessments, if left unpaid, those can turn into liens and foreclosure. So if you're planning on being a little bit of a rule breaker, or if
Punk rocker.
I mean, I may or may not be in that category. I definitely am. Or if you're unaware of assessments that are going to pop up and then you just don't have the budget to pay for them, you have to know what your consequences are going to be. Could you lose your home because you didn't pay an assessment? That very well could happen. I have heard of people actually losing their home due to unpaid dues that pile up over time.
I've seen people get fined too. The most famous case was the guy at the Mark in downtown who was vacation renting his property.
Ooh.
Do you remember that guy?
Those are some big
$109,000 fine.
Yeah. Lose a home over it.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So number 3 on the 10 things I hate about HOAs, of course, and how to beat them, because we do have solutions here.
Absolutely.
The red tape for remodeling inside and out.
Oh gosh, that one's fun. You're like, it's time to do a little remodeling. I'm going to call my gardener, ask them to put up a retaining wall in the front yard, add some flowers, and then you're like, well, I'll just fill out the 4,327 pages application. Then I will submit it to my HOA, have them approve it, have to go to the meeting. There can be a lot of red tape, and sometimes you're even dealing with not just the HOA, but you're dealing with the property management company.
That's right.
So, that is just no fun. And sometimes people aren't aware that it's not only things that are on the exterior, it can also be, especially in condos and townhomes, it can be remodeling that you want to do on the interior, or things that you just don't realize, like windows, for instance. I went and bought $8,000 of windows, non-refundable. Actually, I can't use that color beige. It has to be eggshell. These are things that you have to consider. And,
that color of beige does not work for us.
Right. Well, also, a lot of HOAs actually, they want you to submit plans, which can include additional costs. So be aware of those things. You want to beat these, a lot of these items that you can beat them by just knowing ahead of time. So talk to some owners that are already living in the complex, people that have been there for years, who have applied to put in new windows, people who have done remodeling. Don't necessarily talk to board members who are going to, paint everything as though rose-colored glasses.
That board approval process is cumbersome, and our number 4 on the 10 things I hate about HOAs. Of course, we're driving towards the idea of, should you buy in a complex that has an HOAs, or in a neighborhood that has HOA fees associated or has an HOA, and what, if you do decide to do that, what should you do? So power trips and petty politics. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, you got to watch out for that. You want to reach out to your president. You want to reach out to, in this case, when you're looking at purchasing a home in a complex, look at the minutes. See if there are dramatic altercations that happen during meetings. Reach out to your president. See if you want that person to actually be in charge of making decisions on your behalf. That way you know what you're dealing with, or if you are going to move in and try to be on the board yourself.
Yeah.
That is definitely one way to eliminate some of these problems, or encourage neighbors who are good decision makers. Tell them that you will back them, and that hey, we believe in similar philosophies of living. Why don't we have representation on the board for ourselves? So, HOAs can be great. Another one of the items is hazard insurance. They can provide hazard insurance, but one of the things that you want to know is what kind of hazard insurance do they have? This is an item where you don't necessarily know how bad it is until it's like a catastrophe. And you can, in the San Diego fires, there were so many people who lost a home. They were like, okay, well, we have fire insurance, we have hazard insurance, it's fine. And they didn't realize that built the building back up, but it didn't necessarily build anything from the walls in. And if you are going to have just your HOA limited insurance, you're going to want to supplement that with additional insurance, like walls in coverage. I always suggest to my clients to have.
Yeah.
So that's, again,
really hope people do that. Really, really hope you. That's like the last thing you want to have happen to you and your family. And obviously, so we're doing the 10 things I hate about HOAs right now. Number 5 was the board, power trips, and petty politics. Number 6 is another layer of rules and regulations to follow, because that's essentially what is just a whole nother group or set of rules that you have to deal with.
Exactly. So read them.
Yep. Got to know
Got to read them. Those CC&Rs, it's that 250-page document that you receive during escrow, either by email or actually on paper. I've had, probably in 17 years, I've had 2 clients total
Read them.
tell me that I read through every single page of this.
Listen, and I'm not saying anything about those 2 clients, but I will tell you this. The biggest asshole in your HOA or who lives in your complex will have read it.
Yes.
And they will know all of the rules, and if you park your car in a spot you're not supposed to, or whatever, you fly your American flag from the balcony.
For the wrong hours during the day.
Yeah, you can't do it from 3 to 6 p.m. They will know that, and you will get reported.
Yeah.
And then you'll get pissed.
And then you'll get
emotions
fined.
will get involved, and you'll get fined. And who knows?
And that fine will grow.
And yeah, you have to pay interest on it. So
Now, we're doomsday, but these things actually happen. They happen every single day.
for sure.
Yeah.
It's
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
And there are HOAs that limit environmental practices too. Number 7.
My gosh. So, you were just talking about being environmentally conscious and trying to have a sustainable life. Well, there are a lot of people, we're hippies at heart, really. And, you want to do xeriscaping and solar panels. A lot of HOAs actually completely block you from being able to do that. And
Both of those things?
there are so many HOAs out there, and all of these rules vary from community to community. But absolutely, I have heard of a number of communities in one that I literally have a listing in right now, where no one can get solar panels on their detached townhomes. Yeah, and it's an aesthetic thing, which is crazy. It's Escondido. It's just mind-boggling.
Great sun out there, perfect opportunity.
Perfect, exactly. All of these homes have like perfect roofs. There aren't, there aren't a ton of trees that are shading these roofs. And all of these people could save. This could be like hundreds of thousands of dollars if they would allow this community. And they're just facing a really tough board that will not budge on it. I mean, you know how many people have solar right now?
Some people just don't like stuff and they get stuck on it.
They do.
My landlord is very, very sweet, great person. And I remember when I first came in there, there's a fireplace right there in the living room, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to put the TV right above that. She's like, don't do that. Don't do that.
Ooh.
Do anything but that. I was like, well, that's the perfect place for it to go. I don't know what the problem is. She's like, that's so tacky, don't do it.
What?
I was like, all right.
Was it like a don't do that, or you're breaking a rule?
No, it wasn't breaking a rule. She was just like, don't do that. Like, very serious. And so eventually I said,
is your TV there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, and she knows it. She's been in the house.
Just checking.
But yeah, I was like, I'm not sure what you have against this, but it's really the perfect place to put it and how we're going to set everything up. I don't know a better way to do it. And she's like, okay, well, just make sure you can put it back to the way it was. I'm like, yeah, absolutely, of course I'll do that. But I promise you the next person is probably going to want it there too.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's brilliant where it is. But,
so this is a whole generation that's coming from, TV stands. What are TV stands? I don't even know.
It's true. That's true. And so that's what was in there before.
The cutout?
Yeah.
Put the wires down in the hole,
So it's different. So not only environmental practices, but you could, within that board, you could have people who just have a different view of how things should be, like the solar panels you're talking about. So some people probably just think, oh, that's so ugly looking.
Exactly.
Well, this is how we save the planet. So if you're into that, let's go with it.
Right.
We're in Escondido. We have beautiful sun here. Perfect to have solar panels. I mean, that's actually the perfect place to do it.
It is.
And so for them to block that just because of an aesthetic feeling is silly. It doesn't decrease value. I've never heard anyone be like, oh, it's a great home.
But it has solar.
But the solar just sucks. And
I just hate my very low payments for SDG&E.
That zero electric bill is so annoying. I really don't know what to do without writing a check to
Tax breaks are
SDG&E.
terrible. No, it's true.
And we talked earlier about rental regulations. So number 8 on the 10 things I hate about HOAs and how to beat them, we're talking about that too, is the rental regulations, vacation renting and stuff like that.
And okay, I get it. A lot of people don't want to allow short-term rentals in their complexes. That's, that is a whole issue for another show. But, there are many HOAs out there that actually just won't allow rentals past a certain percentage of investor-owned occupancy.
Really?
Yes. So you got to find out if you're moving into an HOA complex that will not allow for you to be investor-owned once they've reached a certain percentage, and where that percentage is at, where they're currently sitting. You have to figure that out. So it is it's a huge disappointment. Some people purchase homes with the hopes of someday renting that out. People go in and they turn all these into rentals, and then all of a sudden they're like, no, we're at 50%, and your unit would put us at 51%. You are not allowed to rent this. What do you?
It's so bonkers. But I mean, I get it. I know you got to draw a line somewhere, but those regulations can be, it can change things.
Yeah.
If your purpose for the
financially?
home. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
It can totally change things.
Oh my gosh.
There are sometimes assessments too and fee increases just depending upon the health of the HOA. We've seen some HOAs go bankrupt. That happened in the downturn a bunch. With some of the vacant situations that we had going on, or people who were behind on fees.
And when we're talking about common interest developments where they were built in the 80s or the 90s, you're seeing issues come up now: plumbing, roofing, leaks, some deferred maintenance, things like that. You have to know if you're walking into an expensive HOA situation. One of my I know a realtor whose clients walked into a property where the seller did not disclose that there are upcoming assessments. They moved in, and 6 months later, they're expected to pay $5,000 in 2 sets of payments for, to fix all these balconies. So it made a terrible situation for their client, where they just literally couldn't afford to live there.
Was the seller required to disclose that?
They were required to disclose it, but the seller claimed that they had no knowledge of it, that they somehow didn't get their mail, and they just hadn't been to the meetings, they just didn't know.
And that worked for them?
It worked for them.
Liability?
Somehow it wasn't in the HOA docs, because the HOA messed up and they weren't updating their docs. But the HOA skirted around, you know, they were still able to charge the seller. They were like, well, too bad, so sad. Sorry it wasn't in your HOA docs. Sorry the seller didn't tell you, but
you live here now.
You live here now.
Here
You've
you go.
spent all of the cash that you own to remodel this property, and you've spent all of your down payment to even buy it, but now give us, you know, $5,000 more.
Jiminy Christmas. Yeah. And see, that's why you got to really, you know, when you talk about buying an attached home or in a complex or an area where you have HOAs, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily, you know, a flat out no, like don't ever do it. But you just have to be careful. You have to be smart about it. And that's part of the reason.
Absolutely. You have to think about the fees and assessments. Like, really look into it. Just be diligent about finding out exactly what you're getting into. You know, there's a monthly cost, obviously, to be living in these communities, and some of them also have Mello-Roos. A lot of them also have Mello-Roos, because in the newer communities, you're seeing them come hand in hand. There are a lot of people who are now finding that it's more affordable for them to buy in older areas or just areas that don't have HOA for $100,000, $200,000 more than buying in these new communities that have this large HOA and Mello-Roos payment. So you have to weigh, you know, what is my temperament? You know, can I not get along with an HOA board who's not going to let me fly my flag, or who's not going to let me do these things that I want to do? If I want to paint my house neon pink someday, you know, maybe buying in a HOA, common interest development, is not for you.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like the right place to
Right?
be.
That's why areas like Escondido, you know, Poway, these places, Rancho Penasquitos, there are a lot of areas in there that don't have HOA. That's why these places have boomed in the past few years, because people are like, no, screw your rules, screw your fees. I don't want
to buy $1 million house,
right,
and have someone tell me what to do. That I get.
Right.
I do get that. And you mentioned Mello-Roos, which does go away eventually.
You know what's really interesting? I'm finding that there are a lot of communities that are actually having forever Mello-Roos.
Really?
Yes. So we've gone from a situation where Mello-Roos was like 20 years, then it was 30, then it was 40. And there are a couple complexes that are in San Diego now, developments. I can't name them off the top of my head, and I mean, it'd be kind of mean to do it, but I would do it if I remembered. But there are developments that are like the Mello-Roos is not going to go away, period. I don't even know how that is fair or lawful.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense, because someday that sidewalk's going to be paid off.
It has to be.
Right. But they're saying that, you know, perhaps not.
Oh, so we did a neg-am on
We
our
did a neg-am.
on our Mello-Roos. Like, how did we're just interest only on our Mello-Roos? What the hell's going on?
I mean, yeah, probably.
It's number 10 on the 10 things I hate about HOAs, which is the subject of this video, is the cost of HOA dues forever.
Forever. Name that movie. Do you know
I don't
that
know.
movie? Forever.
I don't.
Sandlot.
Oh. See, I wouldn't have caught that. I would have never got that.
I feel like that you're like a Sandlot guy, though.
I watched it a bunch when I was a kid.
Okay.
That's a really old movie.
Yeah, it is.
Like,
Am
I
I
was
showing my
the
age?
age of those kids.
Oh, that's really unfortunate.
Yeah, no. So they actually did a regathering of all the stars from
Did
Sandlot. Yeah, recently, and they were like my age. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
they're all old
I
guys.
won't talk about that. They were his age, not my age.
Yeah, they're my age, not yours. You have the forever young going for you.
Yeah,
You're
that's right.
You're never
I'm
gonna age.
forever 21. I'm gonna look like this when I'm 70. I'll be back.
That's right.
I'll be back. And
I
we'll
won't.
see.
Although I will shave the beard off eventually, so I can get some years back.
Oh, it's
I
true.
grew the beard out to push the age out, and then I'll take it. I'll rein it back in.
Oh, that's too
So,
funny.
do you buy in an HOA or not? That's the question.
I think this is a very personal answer, and you have to know yourself, know if you can stand it. But in my opinion, in this, in San Diego, where it's hardly affordable for most people to buy. I think that if you can get out of buying in an area, if you can commit to living in an area that that doesn't have that governing body, do it. You can increase your sales price by $100, sometimes $200,000 with having the same exact monthly payment. If you could do it, do it.
So look at the leverage then. So let's say, first of all, you're looking at an area where there's an HOA. Look at how much per month that is.
Yes.
Because you have to qualify for that. It's part of the qualifying process. So look at how much per month that is, and then look at how much more could I qualify for a loan if I didn't have that, and where else could I buy based on that. Make sure you're comparing apples to apples. Because if you don't do that, and you find out later you're already in there, that's a real big problem.
Right. I mean, there are other things that you need to consider too. You know, is insurance included in that HOA? Is water included in that HOA? Sometimes there are things like pest control or even cable services in some bougie communities, like the one where I live.
I almost actually Instagram stored something this morning, and I was thinking about you because at Starbucks every morning, so you know my super millennial bougie sustainable situation that's going on.
What's in there right now?
It's semi-bougie.
Okay.
That's bougie too.
What's your order in here?
It's strawberry green tea.
Oh.
Yeah,
Nice.
with 5 stevia.
Oh. He swears he's not a millennial.
It gets better.
Can I have strawberry green tea with 5 stevia in my sustainable cup,
5
please?
stevia in here,
You are
please. No, but then
I'm sorry, this tastes like 4.
You forgot a stevia again. Get your shit together, Mark. It's like the B team here in Starbucks today. So no, there's more bougie than that. Here's what I do, and I actually suggest everyone who goes to Starbucks on a regular basis do this. It's okay. You can have this. Everyone can have this.
Okay.
You
Can't wait to hear this.
Get a cinnamon raisin bagel. Okay.
Okay.
They also have these really sweet little Justin's, like almond butter and
love them.
hazelnut chocolate. Get the hazelnut chocolate with the cinnamon raisin bagel.
Okay.
Cut a small slit in the corner, and then spread that on each half.
Okay.
You get a banana.
Ooh,
You
good.
slice it. Put the banana slices on top. Okay, so you got 2.
Pro tip.
Yes.
Starbucks
this
pro
is
tip.
Starbucks Jedi shit right here. Okay. So you go in there, and people are always looking at me like, what is he eating? What is that? What's going on?
He must be a chef.
Yeah, this is crazy. What does he have there? It's the simplest thing in the world. I want to let you know. I do bring in my own knife.
Oh my God.
That's right. I'm not using the throwaway knives.
Oh my gosh.
I told you it got bougier.
Okay.
You couldn't believe it. So
you just like take it out of your back pocket?
Yeah. No, it's in my backpack.
Oh, good. Okay.
So
That's slightly less weird.
The only reason I didn't post it is because I don't know how to spell bougie.
Oh, bougie.
How do you spell that?
Well, it stems from bourgeois.
Okay.
But, you know, it looks kind of weird.
B-O-U?
Okay,
How do you
so here's the thing. There's actually several ways to spell bougie. I personally would
like
spell
boogie
it.
when I was trying to
Yes,
spell it. I'm
yeah,
like,
B-O-U-G-I-E.
B-O-U.
Okay, but then a song has come out where it's B-O-U-J-E-E. Bougie.
Bougie.
But that kind of has like a more ghetto connotation.
I think I like
Just
B-O-U. I think she's letting me
it
know.
does,
She's
true.
like, you're so not
You
ghetto,
could Google
super
it.
white boy, so don't do that.
Yeah, you're not allowed to do that one.
I'm not allowed that. No,
Then
they
it's
won't.
racist.
They won't
No,
let
I'm
me
just
anymore. They won't let me anymore. So I like B-O-U-G-E.
Okay.
Bougie.
Yeah, that's like a combo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's halfway
Any
between.
of these are acceptable.
These are all.
People will understand.
They'll understand.
They'll
Okay.
understand what you're saying.
So I'll make sure I put that post, and then I'll make sure I tag you
Okay, do it.
somewhere in there.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So you can see what the bomb is about. I was actually going to do like step by step. Like this is how you ace Starbucks.
I love it.
It's pretty cool.
Bougie.
Yeah, super bougie. Okay, so should you buy an HOA? Be careful. Look at the numbers. Make sure you back out the HOA fees and then
Yes.
requall. See if you can buy something in
This
a
is
non-HOA.
a question for your lender.
It is.
you know?
The big question for your
Yeah.
lender.
When you are asking them, what are my monthly payments? How much can I qualify for if there are no HOA fees involved? You know, how much does it, you would be shocked. You would probably be shocked to find out how much more it'll qualify for.
Well, the reason is because the HOA fees are like astronomical in some places.
Yes, they are.
It's like
and
$400 or
sometimes
$500.
they offer nothing.
Yeah, there's very little. What's nutty to me is that like they'll be like, oh, it's really low HOA fees. Like, how much is it? $280. Like, okay, that does sound low. What do you get? Nothing.
Literally nothing.
Nothing.
Common
So it's
area
like,
maintenance. That piece of grass over there under the mailbox, we'll cut that
the
for
walkways
you
and
for
shit.
$280
What?
a month.
So it's like, yeah, so if it's really low HOAs,
Right.
just so there's nothing. If you do have cool stuff, then
Right.
the HOA fees can easily get to $400, $600.
Absolutely.
And there's one building I particularly love in downtown, which is amazing. The Legend.
It's like $1,000 a month.
It's $1,000.
Yeah.
So you talk about if you extrapolate that, that's actually the reason why prices haven't been able to go up in that building. Like you can still get like a 2-bedroom in the Legend
Right.
for $600
Right.
or $5. I think some of them there were
Because
like
the
$585.
amount of people that are willing to pay that extra fee are just, they're few and far between.
That's the thing. If you back that out on your payment, it's like buying $1 million spot.
I'm totally cool with that as long as somebody comes to my door, picks up my laundry, brings it back cleaned and folded. I pull up to the building, I get out, they park my car for me. I'm totally down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then babysits my children. I mean,
And
$1,000
24
a
hours.
month, 24 hours.
Yeah. A G a month.
And
It's like-
also teaches them like Spanish or,
Yeah, we should get
Mandarin.
a live-in nanny.
Anything. Dual immersion babysitter. I mean, I'm in. Somebody make it.
We're trailing. This is great. It's like
Okay.
we're both slap happy. We should have been put to bed a long time ago. And here, 10 things ahead about HOAs and how to beat them from the one and only Melissa, Sofia, and the Avenue Home Collective. Be smarter than everyone else, folks. Share this video. Make your friends smarter too. It'll help you.